welcome back, and thank you for joining me again on another episode of my worm update here. I'm starting with my regular totes, which just have the no holes at the bottom. Normally I do have a regular lid, but I've not been using the lid lately because the castings in the tote were really wet. So I was trying to air it out and have it dry up a bit. When I look at the worms, there's quite a few worms at the top, hanging out on the bubble tape. And the castings themselves along the outside are dry, and where the bubble wrap was are obviously wetter. Upon first glance, I can see that I've got a lot of worms at the top of the castings, and it looks like I've got a good worm ball right here. Got quite a few worms hanging out right here on this piece of banana. Now these worm castings are beyond when I would normally harvest them. There's still a good bit of banana, and they're working through the banana, as you can see. So they really do enjoy banana, I find. So I'm gonna try to fluff along the outside first and then move the banana last, so I don't unsettle the worms too much. But it looks like all of the worms are hanging out where I fed the banana. So what I'm gonna do is gently pick up the pieces of banana that are in here, and I'm gonna put them over to the side here. Another worm ball. And I'm not going to feed this bin this week. There's still a lot of cardboard. There's still plenty of banana left over. And I think for a couple of weeks, I'm not going to feed this bin, getting it prepped to put it in the harvest bins with the bait trays. And I'll take you along for that process as well, but it's going to be exactly the same as when I did the vermi bag tote ones. But the castings in here are a real deep, rich color, and I'm afraid that if I let them stay for much longer, that they'll become overly processed in the bin, and I won't be able to sift them well. So this bin, I'm just gonna cover this up over here and put some grit on the top, and this will finish this one up. The second basic tote, a lot more worms on the bubble wrap on this one. I do marvel at the different size of worms that I have here. The worms definitely seem bigger in the other tote. But on this tote, I don't have the dry spot all along as I did in the other bin. All right, the second regular tote doesn't have the dry edges like the other one, and the castings feel a lot wetter than its partner bin, and that's probably because the bubble wrap was more or covered more of the castings on this one than it did on the other. And the castings in here are a lot wetter, so definitely I don't think I'm going to solve the issue with this one this time around with the moisture content. So I'm just going to also begin the harvest. I'm just doing the same thing I did with the other bin and collecting the worms that are in the area of the banana and taking it and putting it in one corner. I think that's it. But taking the banana and putting it in a corner and trying to get all the big chunks and the sprouts and put them in one space to get the worms to migrate to one area. And then I'd say for about 2 or 3 weeks, I'm really not going to feed this because I did give it cardboard recently. Castings are much more moist, clumpy than their partner bin, which usually the bins have been about the same, but these have a lot more moisture. All right, and then I'm going to cover up the stuff in this corner. Put some grit on the top. Put these over here in this corner. Put some grit at the top. And I'm not going to put the bubble wrap completely over this bin. I'm just going to put the cheesecloth over this bin. I have both my Vermi totes. These I'm working on getting the material volume up to the level that I would like it to be. I put an additional layer of cardboard on last week. Okay, so this week these castings are a bit dry, which I kind of expected that they would be. So I'm going to hold off on adding any more material. As much as I'd like to get the level up, I don't want to dry out the bin too much. I'm looking to see what my worm friends look like here. So this week I'm going to have to add some moisture to this bin. Even though I have the bubble wrap on top, it lost a lot of moisture from the cardboard I put in. So I'm going to add some water to this one. Oopsie. Now the level under the cardboard seems about the same consistency as the other Vermicomposting. So both of these are going to get a good feeding of food that has good moisture content, and I'm going to wet this down before I feed it so that the cardboard doesn't steal all the moisture from the castings. So I purchased this hand pump sprayer on Amazon, and it works really well for keeping the material in the castings wet instead of having to use the hand pump myself. It's an auto sprayer, so it's pretty good, and it wets down all the material really quickly. Real easy. I'll do this a couple times in each bag. And I like using this because it evenly sprays out instead of putting a bunch of water in one spot. And I'm mix it up and determine if I need to put any more water in here is, instead of putting the water in now, I'm going to give the feeding, mix the food in, and then spray it with water. And excuse my dogs in the background. As usual, they're fighting. But that's how they play. Looking at the food and going, that's not a lot of food in here for all the worms in here and the material. But as I was going through it, I did feel that there were a lot of chunks of food. So I am not going to put too much food in here. The one thing I do not like is to overfeed my bins, because that's when they really do get a smell and get a lot of beetles. So I'm just gonna put some grit in both of these and then mix the food in, cover it up. Do that over here as well. Okay. And I'm not going to add any more cardboard, because the last thing, it's okay if it's too wet, but it's not okay if it's too dry. That's how I lost a whole colony last winter. And I'm just gonna spray this down again. Get it nice and saturated. All right, moving on to the last and final bin, which is the Vermibag Mini. Now I have a lot of guys hanging out on the bubble wrap here, coming up to get some air and to get out of the castings. And not that it has a bad smell, but I can tell that I have a lot of food in here because it has a smell. Normally your castings should just smell earthy. They really shouldn't have a smell. And there is a lot of unprocessed food in here. And I can feel some clumps as I dig down. So what I am going to do is just mix this up. And I'm just going to mix it up and add some grit. I don't feel comfortable adding any more food to this, nor any more paper to this. And I don't want to contribute to some beetles coming in, because my beetle population has been managed so far. So all the clumps of things you see right now are clumps of food. So I'm going to try to bury them a little bit. The worms are still active, they're working. There's just a lot of food for them to work with. I'm just going to add a good layer of grit. And I'm going to put the bubble wrap back down, but only on half. And that's all I'm going to do for this one this week. I really don't feel comfortable doing anything else to it. So that's been the update on all of my worm bins this week. I hope you join me next week and that you've enjoyed this content. Thanks for watching.